Hi, I'm James Bruce, and on MakeUseOf.com reviews today we're taking a look at the Teclast X5 Pro. Now first off, let's not beat around the bush here. This is obviously a Microsoft Surface Pro clone, but it only costs around $500, and underneath the hood it actually hides a little bit more performance and power than the cheapest Microsoft competitor does. Not only is it an incredibly capable 12.2-inch touchscreen Windows tablet device with an iconic metal kickstand and a nice clip-on keyboard, it can also play some real games too. Let's take a closer look. So inside this medium-sized but actually heavyweight, and I mean that quite literally, it weighs just under 1 kilogram, you'll find an Intel Kaby Lake Core M3 processor, along with 8 gigabytes, yes, you did just hear me correctly, I did say 8 gigabytes of RAM, Intel 615 HD graphics, and a 256 gigabyte SSD, and that's an actual SSD, not an eMMC drive, which is slower. So the system packs a real punch for a portable device. The keyboard, which is an optional extra for $50, is quite thin and has very low profile keys. It doesn't seem like it would offer much protection. It does cover the screen, of course, but that's about it. And it doesn't offer any additional ports when it's docked onto it. But it's functional, and the trackpad is reasonable enough. I don't really have any complaints about the keyboard as such, it just sort of works. However, I would suggest entirely skipping the optional Stylus. Although it is battery powered and you can recharge it over a micro USB connection, it's not actually what we would call an active stylus. Instead, it's used to give a more precise touch input as you would with your finger, but if your finger was really, really small. So Windows won't natively support it as a pen stylus input. Instead, you'll have to switch any of those programs into touch input mode, and then it just emulates your finger. This also means, of course, that it offers no pressure sensitivity. That said, it works for taking quick notes or offering pen input using handwriting recognition. You'll find a number of ports at the side, including USB-C and micro HDMI, but if you want to charge using the USB-C, you'll need to run a BIOS update, and the instructions are all in Chinese. I wasn't even going to attempt that, otherwise you're stuck using their standard DC 12-volt 2-amp cable. And with what is probably the stupidest design choice ever, the power port is roughly the same size as the stereo port and in the same position, just on the opposite side. So the chances of you plugging a power cable into the completely wrong hole are quite high. In terms of actual performance, it's a bit of a screamer. You can even play proper games like Civilization 6 I tested on it, which worked really well. Raw numbers from Geekbench were 2800 for single core CPU, around 5000 for multi-core CPU, and over 15,000 for the GPU test. And that's considerably higher than, say, the Chewy Hi 13 tablet, which we reviewed last week. So there's certainly a lot of power underneath the hood of this device. Unfortunately, after running a standard Windows update, I managed to lose sound somehow. And because Teclast doesn't have the driver available to download, and nor did Windows automatically recognize it, we tried to do a full system reset back to factory state, which failed. Then we tried to get a reset image from Teclast, and their page gave an error message in Chinese saying our product ID wasn't valid, and at that point I gave up. There is no recovery image, and the PR guy who sent us the tablet stopped responding. Eventually, after running some driver booster software and trying to restore Windows using the built-in restore feature, something eventually came back and it worked. Oh, and whether it's due to the hundreds of times I reset the machine and failed, I don't know, but it's now developed a habit of randomly copying things on the desktop and opening applications when it's locked and asleep, I kid you not. I did, however, manage to test it running my usual full brightness, full volume streaming from BBC iPlayer, and it held out for just under 4 hours, which is pretty good. I should note the last Teclast tablet I reviewed also experienced a similar problem. When I ran the over-the-air update for an updated firmware directly from Teclast themselves, it managed to brick the device, and we were forced to download an 8 GB firmware and spend about half a day restoring the computer to factory state. Other readers noted similar problems in the comments. However, the bandwidth on the Teclast server ran out because they were using some kind of free hosting account, and the readers weren't able to download the firmware, so we ended up having to share it over BitTorrent. It's a complete mess. My point is that while the specs are great in principle and on paper, in reality these devices are really quite unreliable. And unfortunately, when it does go wrong, it's an absolute pain in the backside to get it fixed. So here's the thing, I adore the X5 in principle. The hardware specs are amazing, the screen is stunning, the keyboard isn't bad, it's a bit low profile, a bit thin, but it works, and the trackpad's fine. The stylus is worth skipping, but whatever. But more than any of that, the support is horrendous, and when things do break down, which I expect they're going to, you're going to be left frustrated and with a $500 piece of junk on your hands, as well as possibly lost data. Now, if this were a cheaper device, I would probably be more forgiving of that sort of lack of support and hardware bugs. But at $500, I really do expect a device to function perfectly, or at least have great support for when things do go wrong. So if it wasn't clear already, I can't really recommend the Teclast X5 Pro. However, as is our policy, we have one to give away to a lucky reader. So if you'd like to win your own Teclast X5 Pro, please head on over to MakeUseOf.com or click the link in the description. The competition will be open for about 2 weeks from the publish time of this video. Type in the code X5 Pro, all one word, to get some bonus entries. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel to be notified of all of our weekly giveaways. We'll see you next time for more gadget reviews, giveaways, and technology tips from all of us at MakeUseOf.com. Thank you for watching.